So I would say it probably has to do. The first clothing company that I was running was called Ruli here in Logan. Great company founded by a husband and wife team, just wonderful people. And I joined it kind of during that meteoric growth to take over the marketing side, and shortly after moved into the CEO role to run the business. And, I think, like I said, I had seen this pattern before with companies, but knowing that that growth is not exponential and that it will level off and plateau, it still surprises you a little bit when it comes. So that company, I was running it. I started in 2019. Things were moving really heavy, going really well, expanding stores, opening new locations, building a brand new big warehouse and corporate facility. And then COVID hit. And for a heavy, a retail plus e-commerce business, as much as you think that might do well during COVID because everybody's home, shipping processes were interrupted, logistics plans were completely disrupted across the board, and so it became a very difficult place. Plus, competitive landscape changed. The boutique market for clothing here in Utah exploded with a lot of competition, a lot of different brands. You had international competitors like Shein and Temu overseas that were coming and selling. So that plateau came, and we had to adapt and adjust, and it wasn't easy. There were a lot of people that had been there since the beginning, and so I think when you first see it happen, it's like, okay, well, let's tweak and adjust a little bit, see if we can make it through, and then the world doesn't roar right back, so you got to cut a little bit deeper. So with Ruli, to make a long story short, I ultimately had to take that company and downsize way beyond what anybody thought, including myself. And so, in fact, it was interesting. I put a post on LinkedIn talking about how it was the toughest day of my professional life, having to tell so many people that, hey, we can't keep this department, we can't keep doing it, because if we want the company to survive, then we have to downsize and we have to decrease. And there was a lot of questions and comments, and most of it was understanding, but it was myself too. I was downsizing myself out of a job because the business couldn't sustain it and couldn't afford it. So my job then became, all right, how do I transition this to a level that is sustainable, that the business can survive, even if it's on a much smaller crew, and make sure that there is long-term sustainability, even if it doesn't include me. And that was hard, but again, a really good lesson to just understand, how that dynamic sometimes plays out. It was really interesting after the fact, reading through the comments on, I don't know if you ever, don't ever read the comments section. Isn't that the famous? Reading through the comments, it was funny because there were a lot of people that would chime in and say, "Oh, this, CEO of a company, you're making seven figures. Sure, it's not a big deal for you." And I just thought in my head, I don't know, there are a lot of small business CEOs that are making seven figures. If they are, maybe I'm in the wrong business. But it was hard. It was impactful because it impacted real people, my own life and family included. But at the end of the day, just my what I love and what I enjoy doing is looking at a situation and an opportunity and saying, okay, how do we right size it? How do we optimize it? How do we make it run better, run smoother, run more profitable, grow? What do we do to make this better? And that's, again, whether that's a new region for an airline, whether that's a travel website, whether that's a clothing store. Honestly, I don't really care. I just like coming in and seeing an opportunity and a challenge and saying, all right, we're going to right size this ship and make it stronger.